Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge, watching the sensor screens fill with red dots. 50 alien warships had appeared from nowhere, surrounding his vessel in a perfect formation. Each ship was 3 times larger than his own. "Get me a clear channel," Jake said to his communications officer. His voice stayed calm, though his heart pounded hard in his chest. This was humanity's first contact with alien life, and it looked like they had come for war. The main screen flickered to life. An alien face appeared, covered in dark blue scales with 4 yellow eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. Its mouth had too many teeth. "I am Grand Admiral Zethrak of the Velcor Collective," the alien said. The translation software made its voice sound cold and mechanical. "Your species has been discovered. You will comply with our requirements." Jake stepped forward. "I'm Commander Jake Morrison of Earth. We're on a peaceful exploration mission." "Peace is not relevant," Zethrak replied. "We have studied your homeworld. Your databases were easy to access. Earth is classified as a Class 9 death world. This is the highest danger rating in our records. Only 3 planets in the known galaxy share this classification, and none of them produced space-capable species. Until now. Behind Jake, his navigation officer Lisa Chen pulled up Earth's file. The Velcor had indeed hacked their systems. Data about Earth's weather, geology, and biology scrolled across her screen. "You evolved on a planet that should have killed you," Zethrak continued. "Your gravity is 50% above galactic standard. Your weather systems generate storms that could destroy cities. Your oceans contain millions of species that compete to survive. Your land has predators that hunt in organized groups. Even your plant life evolved toxins and thorns to protect itself." "Earth made us strong," Jake said simply. "It made you dangerous," Zethrak corrected. "The Velcor Collective has maintained peace across 7 species for 3,000 years. We cannot allow a Death World species to threaten that peace. Therefore, you will surrender." Jake felt his jaw tighten. "Surrender? You have 48 hours. Dismantle your military. Provide us access to all your technology. Submit to Velcor authority. Your species will be relocated to safer worlds where you can be properly supervised." "And if we refuse?" The alien's 4 eyes seemed to focus more sharply. "Refusal is not logical. We have 50 warships here. We have 5,000 more in nearby space. Our weapons can turn planets into dead rocks. Your military forces are primitive by our standards. You cannot win." Jake looked at the sensor displays. The Velcor ships bristled with weapons. Their shields glowed with power. Everything Zethrak said was probably true. Then Jake did something that would later be recorded in history books across the galaxy. He smiled. Not a friendly smile, but a smile that showed teeth. A smile that carried the weight of 10,000 years of human history, of survival against impossible odds, of refusing to quit even when defeat seemed certain. "We need time to consider your offer," Jake said. Zethrak's scaled face moved in what might have been confusion. "There is nothing to consider. Logic demands surrender. Resistance means extinction." "Even so," Jake replied. 48 hours, you said. We'll use them." The transmission ended. The bridge crew turned to look at their commander. "Sir, what are we doing?" Lisa asked. "They're right. We can't fight that fleet." "No," Jake agreed. "We can't, but Earth can." He turned to his communications officer. "Get me a direct line to the United Earth Council. Priority 1. Tell them we have guests and they're not friendly." The message reached Earth 6 hours later. President Nicole Hayes called an emergency session in Geneva. The council chamber filled with representatives from every nation, their faces tight with worry. "They want us to surrender," Defense Secretary Ryan Palmer said, slamming his hand on the table. "They want us to give up everything we've built." "They're afraid of us," said Dr. Claire Bennett, the chief scientist. She pulled up the Velcor analysis of Earth. "Look at this. They've never seen a planet like ours. To them, Earth is a nightmare world. They think we're monsters because we survived it. Are we? Someone asked. Nicole Hayes stood up. She was a tall woman with gray hair and eyes that had seen too many wars. She had served in the military before entering politics. She understood what Earth had made humanity become. The Velcor see us as a threat, Nicole said. They want to control us before we become a problem. But they made a mistake. They gave us 48 hours. They think we'll spend that time panicking, arguing, maybe preparing to surrender. What will we actually do? Palmer asked. We'll show them what a death world produces, Nicole replied. She turned to Dr. Bennett. Claire, is the project ready? The scientist nodded slowly. The quantum disruption matrix passed its final tests last month. We've been waiting for authorization to deploy it. You have authorization, Nicole said. Ryan, mobilize our fleets. I want every ship we have ready to move. Don't engage the Velcor yet. Just be ready. What are you planning? Palmer asked. The Velcor think they know what humanity is, Nicole explained. They looked at our planet and saw death. They looked at our history and saw violence. They're not wrong, but they don't understand what that violence taught us. They think war is about having better weapons. They don't know that humans have been fighting since before we had fire. We learned to make weapons from rocks and sticks. We learned to hunt animals 10 times our size. We learned to survive ice ages, droughts, plagues, and each other. She walked to the window and looked out at the city below. Millions of people going about their lives, not knowing that alien warships waited in space above them. The Velcor want to protect the galaxy from us, Nicole continued. They think we're monsters. Maybe they're right. But we're the monsters that Earth created, and Earth never created anything that couldn't survive. Send a message to Commander Morrison. Tell him to hold position and wait for my signal. Back on the horizon's edge, Jake received the President's message. It contained orders, coordinates, and one additional note that made him smile again. The note said, "Show them what we are." Jake gathered his senior officers, Lisa Chen, Kyle Stevens, the engineer, and Amy Rodriguez, the weapons specialist. They had served together for 3 years, exploring the outer edges of human space. "We're not surrendering," Jake told them. "Good," Amy said immediately. "I didn't join the service to roll over for anyone." "What's the plan?" Kyle asked. Jake pulled up a star map. It showed the Velcor fleet positions, human ship locations, and several points marked in red. "Those are quantum disruption matrix deployment sites," he explained. "Dr. Bennett's team has been working on something special. The Velcor think our technology is primitive. They're about to learn otherwise." "What does this matrix do?" Lisa asked. "It changes the rules," Jake said. "The Velcor built their empire on understanding physics better than everyone else. The matrix makes physics stop following the rules. It turns reality into something unpredictable." "That sounds dangerous," Kyle said. "It is," Jake admitted. "But the Velcor are about to learn something about Deathworld species. We didn't survive Earth by playing it safe. We survived by being willing to do whatever it takes." The 48 hours counted down. The Velcor fleet waited, confident in their superiority. Zethrak spent the time reviewing human history files, trying to understand these strange creatures. He watched videos of human wars. The violence disturbed him. Humans fought with weapons, with their hands, sometimes with just their will to survive. They threw themselves at enemies that should have killed them. They accepted casualties that would break any Velcor force. One video showed a human soldier carrying a wounded companion across a battlefield while being shot at. The soldier was hit 3 times but kept moving until both reached safety. Then, the soldier collapsed. "Why?" Zethrak asked his officers. "Why didn't the soldier leave the wounded one behind? The logical choice was to save himself." "Humans don't think like us," his science officer replied. "Their evolution favored group survival over individual survival. They'll die for each other." "That makes them more dangerous than we thought," Zethrak said quietly. When the 48 hours ended, Zethrak opened a channel to the horizon's edge again. The data packet that Jake sent contained something the Velcor had never encountered before. It was a virus, but not a computer virus. It was information designed to attack understanding itself. Within seconds, every Velcor computer system was showing them exactly what Earth really was. Videos played across their screens, hurricanes that spun with winds strong enough to throw vehicles through the air, earthquakes that split the ground open and swallowed cities, volcanoes that turned day into night with their ash, tsunamis that rose higher than buildings and crashed across coastlines. But the videos didn't stop there. They showed humans living through all of it, humans rebuilding after every disaster, humans studying these deadly forces and learning to predict them, humans building stronger, adapting faster, refusing to run away from their angry planet. On the Velcor flagship, Zethrak watched in silence. His science officer stood beside him, making notes. "This cannot be accurate," the officer said. "No species could survive this. The stress alone would prevent civilization from developing." "The data comes from human sources," Zethrak replied. "They're showing us their world on purpose. This is a warning." More videos played. These showed Earth's life forms, sharks with rows of teeth that replaced themselves constantly, bears that could kill with a single strike, wolves that hunted in organized packs using complex tactics, insects that carried diseases, snakes with venom, plants with thorns and poisons. "Their entire planet is at war with itself," the science officer said quietly. "Every species competing, every organism trying to survive. The energy required just to live there must be enormous." "And humans are the apex predator," Zethrak added. "They didn't just survive this world, they conquered it." The videos shifted again. These showed human children. The Velcor expected to see younglings being protected and kept safe. Instead, they saw human children playing games that simulated combat. They saw them climbing trees and falling, getting hurt and continuing to play. They saw them learning to compete, to fight, to push their bodies to the limit. "They trained their young for violence," an officer said, sounding disturbed. "No," Zethrak corrected. "They trained their young for survival. On their world, this is necessary." Back on Earth, Lieutenant Ben Carter stood in a briefing room addressing the United Earth Council. He was a marine biologist who had been recruited into military intelligence because of his unique understanding of Earth's ecosystems. "The Velcor don't understand us," Ben explained. "They come from stable worlds. Their evolution was slow and peaceful. They had time to develop culture and philosophy before they needed to develop weapons." He pulled up a comparison chart showing Velcor homeworld conditions next to Earth conditions. "Their gravity is 30% less than ours. Their weather is predictable. Their largest predator is the size of a house cat. They never had to fight to survive, they just had to exist, and nature provided." "What does that mean for us?" President Nicole Hayes asked. "It means they think we're insane," Ben replied. "From their perspective, everything humans do is excessive and dangerous. We exercise until our muscles hurt. We eat food that contains chemicals that would poison them. We voluntarily jump out of aircraft for recreation. We watch entertainment that shows violence and conflict. We read stories about overcoming impossible odds. Our entire culture is built around struggle." "Because Earth taught us that struggle is life," Nicole said. "Exactly," Ben agreed. "The Velcor want us to surrender because they can't imagine doing anything else. They see our military strength and assume we'll calculate the odds and quit. They don't understand that humans don't surrender. It's not in our nature. Earth would have killed us if we ever gave up." Dr. Claire Bennett joined the briefing. She carried a tablet showing data from the quantum disruption matrix. "We're ready to deploy," she said, "but I need everyone to understand what this weapon does. It's not a bomb. It's not a laser. It doesn't destroy matter directly. She pulled up a diagram showing quantum probability fields. Everything in the universe exists in a state of quantum probability until observed. The matrix manipulates those probabilities. It makes reality uncertain. Predictable physics becomes unpredictable. A ship's engine might work perfectly or might explode. Both outcomes become equally possible until the moment occurs. That sounds extremely dangerous, someone said. It is, Claire admitted. Earth's natural physics are already more chaotic than most planets. Our magnetic field fluctuates. Our geology is active. Our atmosphere is complex. Humans learn to work with chaos. We develop technology that embraces uncertainty rather than fighting it. The Velcor did the opposite. They built everything on perfect predictability. The Matrix will break them. Defense Secretary Ryan Palmer stood up. Our fleets are ready. We have ships positioned across 10 systems. The Velcor think we're scattered and disorganized. They don't realize we're preparing a coordinated strike. What about civilian safety? Nicole asked. All colonies have been evacuated to underground shelters, Ryan replied. If the Velcor attack population centers, they'll find them empty. We've learned from Earth's disasters. We know how to protect our people. The Council voted unanimously. Humanity would not surrender. They would fight using every advantage their Deathworld evolution had given them. Captain Kate Sullivan commanded Earth's Special Operations Division. Her teams were already deployed across Velcor-controlled space. They had infiltrated supply lines, hacked communication networks, and prepared for guerrilla warfare. Kate stood in the armory of her ship, checking equipment with her team. They wore lightweight armor designed for mobility rather than protection. Humans preferred speed over defense. Remember the training, she told her people. The Velcor will expect us to fight like them. Organized formations, logical tactics, minimal risk. We do the opposite. We hit them where they don't expect. We take risks they would never take. We make them afraid. One of her soldiers raised a hand. Sir, intelligence says the Velcor have never lost a war. They have better weapons, better shields, better everything. How do we beat that? Kate smiled. We don't beat their technology. We beat their thinking. The Velcor believe the universe follows rules. They've spent 3,000 years mastering those rules. We're going to show them that rules are made to be broken. She held up a small device. This is a quantum scrambler. Planted on a Velcor ship, and it makes their systems unreliable. Their weapons might fire or might not. Their shields might hold or might collapse. They'll never know until the moment happens. That's going to make them panic, another soldier said. Exactly, Kate replied. Fear is a human weapon. We've lived with fear for our entire evolution. We know how to use it. The Velcor don't. When they start being afraid, they'll make mistakes. Meanwhile, Commander Jake Morrison continued to monitor the Velcor fleet from the horizon's edge. His engineer, Kyle Stevens, worked in the engine room making modifications. Jake, you need to see this, Lisa Chen called from the navigation station. The Velcor are moving. They're forming an attack pattern. Jake watched the sensor displays. The 50 Velcor warships were spreading out, surrounding human space in a net. More ships were arriving through jump points. The Velcor were committing their full strength. They're not taking chances, Jake said. They want to crush us quickly. We're outnumbered 20-1, Amy Rodriguez reported. Maybe worse. The sensors can't track all of them. Numbers don't matter, Jake replied. Earth taught us that. Dinosaurs outnumbered early humans by millions. Who survived? Kyle emerged from the engine room. I finished the modifications. We can now jump twice as close to gravity wells as before. It's dangerous, but it'll let us appear where they don't expect. Perfect, Jake said. Get ready. When the president gives the signal, we move. The signal came 6 hours later. A single word transmitted across all human channels. Execute. Across human space, ships moved. Not in organized fleets, but in small groups using unpredictable patterns. Human vessels jumped into combat range and fired before the Velcor could respond. They attacked supply convoys, communication relays, and isolated ships. The Velcor tried to adapt. They sent task forces to intercept the human ships, but the humans refused to fight fair. They would engage briefly, inflict damage, and jump away before the Velcor could bring their superior firepower to bear. Captain Kate Sullivan's team struck first. They had infiltrated a Velcor supply depot on a contested moon. The depot held fuel, ammunition, and repair equipment for the entire fleet. Kate led 30 soldiers against 300 Velcor defenders. By every military rule, she should have retreated and called for support. Instead, she attacked directly through the main entrance. The battle was brutal. Velcor weapons fired with precision, but human soldiers absorbed hits that should have stopped them and kept fighting. Their bodies pumped chemicals that dulled pain and sharpened focus. They moved faster, hit harder, and refused to quit. One human soldier took 3 shots to the chest. His armor failed. He dropped his rifle, pulled out a knife, and charged the enemy position. He killed 4 Velcor soldiers before finally collapsing. The depot fell in 90 minutes. Velcor casualties were massive. Human casualties were significant too. But every wounded human was already being treated with medical technology designed for Earth's harsh environment. They would be back in action within days. Zethrak received the reports with growing concern. The humans were fighting in ways that made no logical sense. They accepted losses that should have broken their morale. They took risks that should have led to defeat. Yet they were winning. How? He asked his commanders. How are they doing this? The war intensified over the following weeks. The Velcor Collective committed more resources, calling in forces from across their territory. 5,000 ships gathered in the disputed zone, their weapons charged and ready. Grand Admiral Zethrak prepared for a final assault that would crush human resistance once and for all. Colonel Matt Harrison stood on the surface of a frozen moon, looking up at the sky where the Velcor fleet gathered. His breath formed clouds in the cold air. Around him, his team of Marines checked their weapons and equipment. Intel says there's a Velcor command base 3 kilometers north, Matt told his team. 500 enemy soldiers, heavy fortifications, automated defenses. Command wants it taken. How many troops are they sending us? Someone asked. They already sent us, Matt replied. 30 soldiers, that's the whole force. The Marines looked at each other. The math was simple and terrible. 30 against 500. Fortified positions against light assault gear. The odds of survival approached 0. Well, one Marine said, I didn't join up because I liked good odds. Matt smiled. That was the Earthborn mindset right there. Humans didn't calculate odds the way other species did. They calculated determination instead. Here's the plan, Matt said. We don't attack the fortifications. We go under them. He pulled up a geological scan of the moon. The surface was frozen solid, but underneath lay tunnels formed by ancient lava flows. The Velcor had built their base on top without checking below. We plant charges at structural weak points, Matt explained. When the base collapses into the tunnels, we move in through the chaos. Speed and confusion are our weapons. The team moved out. They covered 3 kilometers in 40 minutes, running in full gear through terrain that would exhaust most species. Earth's heavy gravity meant humans were naturally stronger. On low-gravity worlds, they could move like they were flying. They entered the tunnel system through a crack in the ice. The temperature dropped to -50 degrees. Human suits had heating elements, but they still felt the cold. The Marines kept moving anyway. Cold was just another enemy, and Earth had taught humans how to survive enemies. Matt placed the first charge at a support column of rock beneath the Velcor base. The explosive was small but focused. It would crack the stone and let the weight of the base do the rest. While Matt's team set charges, the Velcor base above remained quiet. Their sensors watched the surface but not below. They didn't think to check underground because on their home world, the ground was stable. The concept of geology as a weapon was foreign to them. The charges detonated simultaneously. The entire base lurched and began sinking as the tunnel system collapsed. Velcor soldiers scrambled to understand what was happening. Their training covered attacks from orbit, from the air, from the surface. It didn't cover attacks from below. Matt's team burst through the floor of the base using cutting tools. They emerged into complete chaos. Velcor soldiers tried to respond, but the ground was still shifting. Equipment fell over, walls cracked. The automated defenses couldn't target enemies that appeared from unexpected angles. The battle lasted 20 minutes. When it ended, the Velcor command base was destroyed. Human casualties, 8 wounded, 1 dead. Velcor casualties total. Reports of the victory reached Earth and spread through the human fleet. More importantly, it reached Velcor command. They began to realize that humans didn't fight like anyone else. They used the environment as a weapon. They attacked from angles that shouldn't be possible. They turned their enemies' assumptions against them. Commander Jake Morrison received orders to escalate operations. The Horizon's Edge became the coordination point for human forces across multiple systems. Jake stood in the command center, surrounded by screens showing tactical data. "We've been hitting supply lines for 2 weeks," Lisa Chen reported. "The Velcor fleet is running low on fuel and ammunition. Their logistics network is breaking down." "Good," Jake said. "Hungry soldiers make mistakes. Kyle, what's the status on our special project?" The engineer pulled up a schematic. "We've modified 6 human ships with the new jump drives. They can now appear inside enemy formation ranges. It violates every safety protocol, but it works." "Safety protocols are for people who have better options," Jake replied. "Amy, weapon status?" Amy Rodriguez grinned. "We've been analyzing Velcor shield technology. Their shields are strong but predictable. They cycle at regular intervals to dissipate heat. We've programmed our weapons to fire during the cycle gaps. Hit them at the right millisecond, and their shields might as well not exist." "How did you figure out the timing?" Lisa asked. "Math and guesswork," Amy said. "Mostly guesswork. The Velcor shields follow a perfect mathematical pattern. That's their weakness. They're too predictable. We added random delays to our weapon systems. Now they can't predict when we'll fire." Jake nodded. This was the human advantage distilled into tactics. The Velcor built everything on perfect mathematics and predictability. Humans built everything on adapting to chaos. When the two approaches met, chaos won. "Deploy the modified ships," Jake ordered. "Hit the Velcor staging area in the Kepler system. Make it loud and make it hurt." The modified ships jumped into Velcor space 3 hours later. They appeared at ranges that should have been impossible, their engines screaming from the stress. Velcor sensors detected them and alarms blared, but by the time defensive weapons swung into position, the human ships were already firing. Projectiles slammed through Velcor shields at precisely the wrong moments. Explosions bloomed across enemy hulls. The Velcor fleet tried to respond, but the human ships were already jumping away, appearing in new locations and firing again. It was chaos. Beautiful, effective chaos. On the Velcor flagship, Zethrak watched his fleet take damage and felt something he had rarely experienced in his long military career. He felt fear. "They're everywhere," his tactical officer reported. "We can't predict their movements. They appear, attack, and vanish. Our targeting systems can't track them." "Increase defensive formation density," Zethrak ordered. "Make sure our ships are close enough to provide mutual support." The Velcor fleet pulled into tighter formations. This should have made them stronger, each ship protecting the others. But it also made them vulnerable in ways Zethrak didn't anticipate. Captain Kate Sullivan noticed the formation change immediately. She smiled. The Velcor were thinking defensively now. Fear was setting in. "Prepare the viral package," she told her technical team. "The Velcor just made our job easier." Her team had spent weeks analyzing Velcor communication networks. The aliens used quantum encryption that was supposedly unbreakable. In theory, it was perfect. But humans didn't care about theory. They cared about results. The technical team had found something interesting. Velcor computers followed strict logical patterns. They couldn't imagine inputs that violated logical rules. So humans gave them illogical inputs. The viral package contained code that was mathematically impossible, variables that equaled both 0 and 1 simultaneously, loops that executed before they started, functions that returned results from the future. To Velcor computers, this was breaking reality. They tried to process the impossible data and crashed. Kate's team uploaded the viral package into a captured Velcor communication node. From there, it spread through the tightly packed fleet like wildfire. Ship to ship, the virus jumped, carried by the quantum communication channels the Velcor relied on. Within an hour, 30% of the Velcor fleet had communication failures. Ships couldn't talk to each other. Coordinated tactics fell apart. Individual captains tried to make decisions, but they weren't trained for independent action. The Velcor military culture was based on central command and perfect coordination. Zethrak realized too late what the humans had done. They had weaponized confusion itself. "Shut down all external communication channels," he ordered. "Revert to basic light-speed communication only." But the damage was done. The Velcor fleet was scattered and confused. Individual ships tried to fight, but without coordination, their advantages disappeared. Human forces pressed the attack. Small groups of ships hit the disorganized Velcor fleet from multiple directions. They used tactics that seemed random, but were actually carefully planned chaos. Each attack forced the Velcor to respond, and each response revealed more information about their capabilities and weaknesses. Lieutenant Ben Carter watched the battle unfold from Earth's Tactical Command Center. He provided analysis in real time to fleet commanders. "The Velcor are trying to reform their lines," Ben reported. "But look at how they're moving. They're following standard defensive patterns from their tactical manuals. They literally can't think outside their training." "Humans can," Defense Secretary Ryan Palmer said. "That's the difference." "It's more than that," Ben explained. "On Earth, survival required constant adaptation. Animals that couldn't adapt went extinct. Humans learned to change tactics mid-battle, to improvise weapons from whatever was available, to turn disadvantages into advantages. The Velcor never learned this because they never needed to. Their evolution was peaceful." "So we're better warriors," Palmer said. "No," Ben corrected. "We're better survivors. And right now, war is about surviving." Back in space, the battle continued. Human ships took damage too. Some were destroyed, crews died, but the survivors kept fighting, kept adapting, kept pushing forward. Dr. Claire Bennett monitored the quantum disruption matrix from her laboratory on Earth. The weapon was ready for deployment, but she hesitated. Once they used it, there was no going back. The galaxy would see what humans were capable of, and that knowledge might make them more feared than respected. President Nicole Hayes stood beside her, watching the battle reports. "The Velcor are calling for reinforcements," Nicole said quietly. "They're bringing in their core fleets. 15,000 ships total." "We can't fight that many," Claire said. "No," Nicole agreed. "Not conventionally. That's why we need your weapon." "It could damage the fabric of space itself," Claire warned. "Quantum probability is what holds reality together. If we disrupt it too much, we might cause permanent harm." President Nicole Hayes looked at the Velcor ultimatum on her screen. 1 hour to surrender or face extinction. 15,000 warships waited for her answer. Behind her, the United Earth Council chamber was silent. Everyone knew what was coming next. "Dr. Bennett," Nicole said quietly, "activate the quantum disruption matrix." Claire Bennett's fingers moved across the control panel. Deep beneath Earth's surface, in a facility built into bedrock, machines that bent reality itself came to life. The quantum disruption matrix hummed with power that came from harnessing the chaotic quantum fields that naturally surrounded Earth. First matrix online, Claire reported. Second matrix online. Third matrix online. All 12 systems are active and synchronized. Deploy them, Nicole ordered. Across human space, ships carrying the matrix devices moved into position. Each device was small, no larger than a refrigerator, but contained more computational power than most planets possessed. They had to calculate probability fields in real time, manipulating quantum states faster than reality could collapse them into fixed outcomes. Captain Kate Sullivan piloted her ship toward the largest concentration of Velcor forces. Her cargo hold contained one of the matrix devices. She knew this mission might be her last. The device was experimental. It might work perfectly, or it might turn her ship into scattered atoms across a light year of space. 5 minutes to deployment point, her navigator said. Velcor sensors have detected us. 6 fighters incoming. Ignore them, Kate said. We just need to reach the deployment zone. Her ship shook as Velcor weapons struck the shields. Alarms blared. The shields dropped to 60%, then 40%. The ship's armor began to fail. We're not going to make it, someone shouted. Yes, we are, Kate replied. She pushed the engines past their safety limits. The ship accelerated so hard that the crew felt their bones creak from the G-forces. On most ships, this would kill everyone aboard. Human ships were built stronger because humans could survive stronger. They reached the deployment zone with shields at 5% and hull breaches on 3 decks. Kate activated the Matrix device and ejected it into space. The device floated for 3 seconds, running final calculations. Then it activated. Reality screamed. Commander Jake Morrison watched from the horizon's edge as space itself began to change. The stars flickered between colors. Light bent in directions that shouldn't exist. His instruments showed readings that made no sense. A ship could be in 2 places at once. Time flowed backward and forward simultaneously. What's happening? Lisa Chen asked, her voice shaking. We're weaponizing chaos, Jake said. We're making the universe act like Earth acts. Unpredictable, dangerous, perfect for us. The Velcor fleet entered the affected zone and immediately understood their mistake. Their engines, which worked on precise quantum calculations, suddenly became unreliable. A ship would try to move forward and end up moving backward. Another ship tried to fire weapons, and the weapons detonated inside the ship itself because causality stopped following rules. On the Velcor flagship, Zethrak watched his perfect fleet fall apart. Ships collided because their navigation systems showed impossible positions. Shields failed because the energy that should have powered them existed in probability states that prevented it from being used. Weapons became decorations because they couldn't determine where their targets actually were. What is this? Zethrak demanded. What have they done? His science officer stared at the readings with 4 eyes that couldn't believe what they saw. They've broken physics. The quantum fields are destabilized. Probability itself is corrupted. Nothing can function reliably in this space. Deploy the planet killer, Zethrak ordered. Target Earth directly. If we cannot win this war, we will end it. The planet killer weapon was the Velcor's ultimate tool. It drew power from 3 stars simultaneously through quantum tap technology. The energy accumulated until it could punch through any defense and turn a world's surface into molten glass. The weapon began charging. Energy flooded into its containment fields. The amount of power being gathered could destroy not just Earth, but the entire solar system. Zethrak had committed to total war. But the Velcor didn't know that humans had infiltrated their quantum tap network. Amy Rodriguez floated in space near one of the quantum tap stations. Her suit was damaged. She had oxygen for maybe 20 minutes, but she had a job to do. She planted quantum disruption matrix charges directly on the power conduits feeding the planet killer. Charges set, she reported, activating in 3, 2, 1. The charges detonated, but instead of normal explosions, they injected quantum corruption directly into the power stream. The energy feeding the planet killer became unpredictable. Power levels fluctuated wildly. The weapon tried to fire and couldn't determine how much force to use. The corruption fed backward through the quantum tap network. Every Velcor facility connected to the power grid suddenly experienced the same instability. Lights flickered between dimensions. Equipment operated at random efficiency. Stars that fed the network began exhibiting impossible behavior, burning in colors that violated physics. Across the Velcor Collective's core worlds, people looked up at their suns and saw them change. Red stars turned blue. Binary stars merged and separated. The sky itself became a reminder that humans had reached into the foundation of reality and twisted it. Lieutenant Ben Carter monitored Earth's biosphere from the Tactical Command Center. His screens showed concerning data. The quantum disruption matrix was affecting Earth, too. Minor probability errors were occurring. A river in South America flowed uphill for 30 seconds. Snow fell in the Sahara Desert. The moon appeared slightly larger, then slightly smaller, then both simultaneously. "President Hayes," Ben said urgently, "the Matrix is causing side effects. If we keep it active too long, we might cause permanent damage to local space-time." Nicole heard him, but didn't respond immediately. She was watching the Velcor fleet tear itself apart. This weapon had given humanity victory, but Ben was right. The cost might be too high. Dr. Claire Bennett ran simulations trying to predict the long-term effects. The models showed probability fields collapsing back to normal after deactivation. Probably. Maybe. The uncertainty itself was ironic. They had weaponized uncertainty and now faced uncertainty about the weapon's effects. "We need to shut it down soon," Claire said. "The quantum substrate can only handle this level of disruption for a limited time. If we pass the threshold, the damage could spread beyond our control." "How long do we have?" Nicole asked. "Hours, maybe less." In space, Colonel Matt Harrison's Marines boarded a disabled Velcor command ship. The crew inside couldn't fight back effectively. Their weapons existed in probability states where they might work or might not. Every Velcor soldier faced the same dilemma: pull the trigger and risk the gun exploding in their hands, or surrender and definitely survive. Most chose surrender. Matt secured the ship and accessed their communication systems. He opened a direct channel to Grand Admiral Zethrak. "Admiral," Matt said, "this is Colonel Matt Harrison of Earth. We have captured 17 of your command vessels. We control your quantum tap network. We have demonstrated that we can make your entire fleet non-functional. Do you understand what this means?" Zethrak's face appeared on the screen. His 4 eyes were wide with something humans would recognize as terror. "You cannot sustain this," Zethrak said. "Your weapon is damaging reality itself. You will destroy yourselves along with us." "Maybe," Matt agreed. "But that's the difference between us. We came from a planet that tried to kill us every day. We learned to survive by being willing to break anything, including ourselves. You came from safe worlds where nothing was ever at risk. When faced with true danger, you don't know how to respond." "What do you want?" Zethrak asked. "I want you to understand something," Matt replied. "You came to our space and demanded surrender. You threatened extinction. You tried to bully us into submission. But Earth doesn't raise victims. It raises survivors, and survivors don't quit." On Earth, President Nicole Hayes received reports from across the battle zone. The Velcor fleet was in complete disarray. Their reinforcements had stopped advancing. Some ships were actually retreating. "We're winning," Defense Secretary Ryan Palmer said. "The Velcor are breaking." "At what cost?" Nicole replied. She looked at the probability field readings. Space itself was showing strain. Like a rubber band stretched too far, reality was approaching its breaking point. She made the hardest decision of her life. "Dr. Bennett, begin matrix shutdown procedures," Nicole ordered. "Gradually reduce power levels. We've made our point." "The Velcor might regroup once the matrix deactivates," Ryan warned. "Then we'll deal with that," Nicole said. "But I won't win a war by destroying the galaxy. That's not what Earth taught us." The quantum disruption matrix devices began powering down. The process was slow and careful. Shutting down too quickly could cause a probability collapse that would be just as dangerous as keeping them active. In space, Jake Morrison felt reality stabilize around his ship. The stars stopped flickering. Light resumed, following normal paths. His instruments showed readings that made sense again. "Matrix is at 50%, Lisa reported. "Probability fields are collapsing back to normal parameters." Jake opened a channel to the Velcor flagship. Zethrak's face appeared, still showing fear. "We're deactivating our weapon," Jake said. "Not because we have to, because we choose to. But let me be absolutely clear, Admiral. If you attack us again, we will activate it again. And next time, we might not be so merciful." Zethrak processed this. Humans had the ability to break reality itself, and they chose to stop. They could have pressed their advantage and destroyed the entire Velcor fleet. Instead, they offered a choice. "I must consult with the collective," Zethrak said. "You have 6 hours," Jake replied. "After that, we assume the war continues." The channel closed. Jake leaned back in his command chair and exhaled deeply. His hands were shaking. He had been confident during the fight, but now that it was over, the reality of what they had done hit him. 6 months after the war ended, Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge. But this time, the ship was heading toward Velcor space as a diplomatic vessel rather than a warship. The cargo holds that once carried weapons now held medical supplies and repair equipment. "Approaching the Velcor border," Lisa Chen announced. "They're hailing us." "Put them through," Jake said. A Velcor officer appeared on the screen. Not the aggressive military commanders from before, but a civilian administrator with softer features and uncertain eyes. "Commander Morrison," the Velcor said. "Welcome to our space. We have prepared facilities for your arrival. The damaged stations need assistance, and we appreciate your offer to help." "We're happy to help," Jake replied. "Earth taught us that the storm that destroys today brings the rain for tomorrow. Destruction and creation are part of the same cycle." The Velcor didn't fully understand, but that was fine. Understanding would come with time. Jake's ship docked at a Velcor station that still showed damage from the quantum disruption. Walls had stress fractures. Systems operated at partial efficiency. The station had been at the edge of the affected zone, damaged but not destroyed. Kyle Stevens led the repair teams. Human engineers worked alongside Velcor technicians, showing them how to fix equipment that had been corrupted by probability errors. The work was slow but meaningful. "Your technology is strange," a Velcor engineer said to Kyle. "It operates on principles that seem to embrace error rather than eliminate it." "That's because Earth never let us build perfect systems," Kyle explained. "Earthquakes would shake our buildings. Storms would damage our equipment. We learned to design things that could fail partially and keep working. Your technology is more advanced, but it's also more fragile." The Velcor engineer made a note. This was a lesson the collective was learning repeatedly. Advanced technology meant nothing if it couldn't survive chaos. Back on Earth, President Nicole Hayes welcomed a delegation from the Velcor collective. They met in Geneva, where the United Earth Council convened. The Velcor representatives looked uncomfortable in Earth's heavy gravity, but they endured it as a gesture of respect. Grand Admiral Zethrak was among them. He had been demoted after the war, no longer commanding fleets but serving as a diplomatic liaison. It was either punishment or wisdom, depending on how one viewed it. "President Hayes," Zethrak said formally. On behalf of the Velcor Collective, I apologize for our actions. We came as conquerors and were taught humility. This is not an easy lesson for my people." "Apology accepted," Nicole replied. "But let's be honest, Admiral. You're not here because you're sorry. You're here because you're afraid. You saw what humans can do, and you want to make sure we never do it again." Zethrak's 4 eyes blinked in what might have been surprise at her directness. "Yes, that is accurate. Your species is dangerous in ways we never imagined. The quantum disruption matrix alone makes you the most powerful military force in known space." "We've dismantled most of the matrix devices," Nicole said. "Only a few remain in secure storage. We don't want that power. We never did. We built it because you forced us to." "Why dismantle it?" Zethrak asked. "With that weapon, you could rule the galaxy." "Because that's not who we are," Nicole replied. "Earth made us survivors, not conquerors. There's a difference." In another part of the city, Dr. Claire Bennett gave a presentation to Velcor scientists about quantum mechanics and Earth's chaotic probability fields. The aliens listened with fascination and horror. "Your planet should not have developed technological life," one Velcor scientist said. "The quantum instability alone should have prevented consistent chemistry. How did you progress scientifically when your experiments couldn't produce reliable results?" "We learned to run many experiments and average the results," Claire explained. "We accepted that uncertainty was part of the process. Your species developed science in stable environments where experiments produced identical results every time. You learned to trust perfection. We learned to trust patterns within chaos." "But that means your entire scientific foundation is based on probability rather than certainty," the Velcor protested. "Yes," Claire agreed, "and that's why we thought of weaponizing quantum fields when you never did. We've always lived with uncertainty. You haven't." The presentation continued, and by the end, several Velcor scientists asked if they could visit Earth to study its quantum fields firsthand. Claire agreed, with the warning that they would need significant medical support to survive the planet's environment. Captain Kate Sullivan established the Diplomatic Special Operations Division from a facility on the Moon. Her teams were former soldiers who now trained to be ambassadors. Their job was to help other species understand humans without being terrified of them. One team traveled to a species called the Tyrell, small, peaceful beings who had been part of the Velcor Collective for 1,000 years. The Tyrell were afraid of humans. They had heard stories about the war, about humans who fought through injuries that should have killed them, about weapons that broke reality. Kate met with the Tyrell Council personally. "I understand you're afraid," she told them. "You should be. Humans are dangerous, but we're also capable of being friends. The question is, which do you prefer?" "How can we trust you?" a Tyrell counselor asked. "Your species destroyed a fleet that outnumbered you 20-1. "Because we also chose to stop when we could have kept going," Kate replied. "We had the power to destroy the entire Velcor Collective. We chose peace instead. That's what makes us human. We have the capacity for violence, but also the wisdom to avoid it when possible." The Tyrell remained uncertain, but they agreed to cultural exchanges, small steps toward understanding. Lieutenant Ben Carter became the head of Earth's Xenobiology and Culture Department. His team studied the dozens of species that humanity now had contact with, looking for ways to bridge the gap between Deathworld evolution and peaceful world evolution. "The fundamental problem," Ben explained in a report to the United Earth Council, "is that we see conflict as normal. Most species see conflict as aberrant. When we say healthy competition, they hear unnecessary violence. When we say pushing limits, they hear reckless danger. We need to help them understand that Earth shaped us differently, not wrongly." His department created educational programs for alien species, videos that explained Earth's environment, classes that taught alien children about human culture. Exchange programs where young humans and aliens lived together for periods of time. Some of it worked, some of it failed, but slowly, understanding grew. Colonel Matt Harrison worked with Velcor military forces to establish joint training exercises. The Velcor had requested this, wanting to learn human tactics. Matt agreed, but with conditions. "We'll teach you how we fight," Matt told Velcor officers, "but you need to understand that our tactics come from our mindset. You can copy what we do, but it won't work unless you understand why we do it." The training started with simulations. Velcor soldiers practiced human-style assault tactics, using speed and aggression instead of careful positioning. Most of them failed initially. They couldn't accept the risks that human tactics required. "You're thinking about survival first and mission second," Matt explained to a frustrated Velcor captain. "Humans think about mission first and survival second. That's the difference." "But that's illogical," the captain protested. "If you die, you cannot complete the mission." "True," Matt agreed. "But if you're too careful, you'll never complete the mission either. Earth taught us that sometimes you have to risk everything to gain anything." Slowly, some Velcor soldiers began to understand. They would never fight exactly like humans, but they learned to think more flexibly. They learned that sometimes the unexpected solution was the best solution. Amy Rodriguez became an unexpected celebrity across multiple species. Her assault on the Quantum Tap network had been recorded and the footage spread. Young aliens watched it the way humans watched action movies. Some species banned the footage, considering it too violent. Others studied it, trying to understand how a single human could show such determination. Amy found the attention embarrassing. "I was just doing my job," she told interviewers. "Any human would have done the same." But that statement itself was revealing. The idea that any member of a species would sacrifice themselves for the group was foreign to most aliens. It made humans seem even more alien than their Deathworld origin. Defense Secretary Ryan Palmer oversaw the establishment of mutual defense treaties between Earth and 42 species. Some were former members of the Velcor collective, now independent. Others were neighboring civilizations that had remained neutral during the war. "We're building something new," Ryan explained to his staff. "Not an empire, not a collective. A network of allies who choose to work together because it benefits everyone." The treaties had terms that surprised many species. Humans didn't demand tribute or control. They offered technology sharing, mutual defense, and cultural exchange. In return, they asked only for friendship and cooperation. "Why don't you leverage your power?" a diplomat from another species asked Ryan. "You could demand much more." "Because Earth taught us that cooperation survives longer than domination," Ryan replied. "Look at Earth's ecosystems. The species that survived weren't always the strongest. They were the ones that found ways to work with their environment rather than against it. 5 years after the war, the galaxy had changed in ways no one had predicted. Humanity wasn't the ruler of space. They were the example." Species that had never questioned their peaceful evolution now wondered if they were too soft. Some began training their militaries in human tactics. Others studied Earth's ecology to understand how competition drove advancement. The Velcor collective had fractured into multiple independent governments. Some stayed together voluntarily, others chose independence. But all of them maintained diplomatic relations with Earth. They had learned that humans made better friends than enemies. Ambassador Jake Morrison, as he was now called, traveled to the edge of known space where new signals had been detected. Something was out there, something powerful, something that made even the Velcor nervous. His ship, still the horizon's edge after all these years, led a coalition fleet of 50 vessels. Only 5 were human. The rest came from dozens of other species, all volunteering to explore the unknown together. "We're approaching the signal source," Lisa Chen reported. She was still his navigation officer, refusing promotion because she preferred exploration to administration. "Any response to our hails?" Jake asked. "Nothing yet, but the signal is definitely artificial. Someone built whatever is generating it." The fleet moved forward carefully. They entered a system with 3 planets orbiting a blue giant star. The signal came from the largest planet. As they got closer, their sensors revealed structures on the surface. Cities, technology, but no life signs. "It's abandoned," Kyle Stevens said, studying the readings. "Whatever lived here is long gone." "Or waiting," Amy Rodriguez added, her hand near the weapons console. Jake made the decision to send a landing team. He led it himself, along with volunteers from 4 other species. They landed near one of the cities and found it empty but intact. The buildings showed no signs of war or disaster. The inhabitants had simply left. In the center of the city, they found a monument. It was covered in writing in a language no one recognized. Their translation software struggled with it, but eventually produced a partial result. "They came. We could not stop them. We ran. We warn those who find this. The Devourers are coming." Jake felt a chill. He had fought the Velcor and won. But this message suggested something worse existed out in the darkness between stars. "We need to get this information back to the Coalition," he said. The team returned to their ships and sent the data across the network. Within days, every major government in the galaxy had received the message. The Devourers, whatever they were, represented a threat that made the human Velcor war look small. President Nicole Hayes convened an emergency session of the Galactic Council. The council had been formed after the war, with representatives from over 100 species. It met rarely, but this qualified as an emergency. "We have a common threat," Nicole said to the assembled delegates. "We don't know what the Devourers are. We don't know when they're coming. But we know they destroyed at least one civilization completely. We need to prepare together." Grand Admiral Zethrak, restored to a military command position, spoke next. "The Velcor have ancient records of something similar. 7,000 years ago, a group of species in a distant sector suddenly went silent. We assumed internal conflict. Perhaps we were wrong." The council debated for hours. Some species wanted to hide. Others wanted to flee to distant galaxies. But humanity offered a different suggestion. "We stand and fight," Jake said. "Not because we want war. Because we've learned that running doesn't solve problems. It just delays them." "Easy for you to say," an alien diplomat snapped. "Your species evolved for conflict. The rest of us did not." "Then we'll teach you," Jake replied. "Earth made us survivors. We'll share what we learned. Not so you can become like us, but so you can survive in your own way." The council voted. Not unanimously, but by a large majority. The galaxy would prepare for the Devourers together. Humans would help train defenses. The Velcor would provide technology. Every species would contribute what they could. The story could have ended there, with the galaxy united against a common threat. But there was one more scene that mattered. Jake Morrison returned to Earth for the first time in 2 years. He stood on a beach in California, feeling the sun on his face and the sand under his feet. The waves crashed against the shore, powerful and relentless. Lisa joined him. "You could retire now," she said. "You've done enough." "Earth doesn't raise people who retire when there's work to be done," Jake replied. "The Devourers are coming. We need to be ready." "We'll be ready," Lisa assured him. "Humans always are." Jake smiled that same smile he had shown Zethrak all those years ago. The smile that said humans don't surrender. The smile that said Earth had taught its children well. "When the Devourers come," Jake said, "they're going to learn what the Velcor learned. You don't threaten Deathworlders. You don't demand that survivors surrender. Because we've spent our entire existence learning how to survive the unsurvivable. And we're really good at it. He looked up at the sky where stars were just becoming visible in the evening twilight. Somewhere out there, in the vast darkness of space, something dangerous was approaching. Something that had destroyed civilizations. But humanity had faced dangerous things before. Earth itself was dangerous, and humans had conquered it. The Devourers would learn what the Velcor had learned, what the galaxy was still learning. Earth doesn't raise victims. It raises survivors, and survivors don't quit. The waves continued to crash against the shore. The sun set behind the horizon, and humanity prepared for the next challenge, knowing that whatever came, they would face it the way they had faced everything else, with determination, with creativity, with the unbreakable spirit that came from surviving a planet that tried to kill them every single day and failing every single time. The Devourers were coming. Let them come. We broke the universe, Lisa said quietly. We broke their perception of the universe, Jake corrected. That's different. The Velcor thought they understood everything. We showed them they understood nothing. The 6 hours passed slowly. Across human space, forces remained on alert. The quantum disruption matrix devices were offline but ready to reactivate in minutes if needed. Finally, a message came from the Velcor Collective. Not from Zethrak, but from the Collective's High Council. Multiple alien faces appeared on the screen, representing all 7 species in their coalition. Humanity, the council leader said. We have deliberated. We have seen what you are capable of. We have seen what your world created. We acknowledge that forcing your surrender was a mistake. We wish to discuss terms of peace. And if we don't use it, the Velcor will destroy us, Nicole replied. Then they'll destroy every other species that doesn't submit. Someone has to show the galaxy that bullies can be stopped. Claire looked at the activation controls for the quantum disruption matrix. Her hand shook slightly as she reached for them. Earth made us survivors, she said. But sometimes I wonder if surviving means becoming the thing that scares others. That's what makes us human, Nicole said. We question ourselves even when we're fighting for our lives. The Velcor don't do that. They just assume they're right. The Velcor reinforcements arrived in human space like a steel tide. 15,000 warships arranged in perfect formations, their weapons charged, their shields active, their confidence absolute. Zethrak sent one final message to Earth. You have fought well, he said. Better than we expected. But this ends now. We have brought our full military might. Surrender, and your species will be allowed to survive under our guidance. Resist, and we will sterilize every human world. You have 1 hour to decide. They don't value individual survival, his tactical officer explained. They value the mission above themselves. When one falls, the others fight harder, not weaker. That's not sustainable, Zethrak insisted. It is for them, the officer replied. Their medical technology is designed to repair extreme trauma. Their psychology is designed to handle loss and continue functioning. They evolved on a planet where death was common. They learned to accept it and continue. Zethrak looked at the battle reports again. Human ships were appearing in impossible locations. Human soldiers were performing impossible actions. Human technology was working in ways that violated known physics. They're not just fighting us, he said quietly. They're changing how war is fought. Everything we know is useless against them. Your time is expired, he said. What is your answer? Jake Morrison appeared on the screen, and that smile was back. Our answer is no, Jake said. We will not surrender. We will not submit. We will not be supervised. Earth didn't raise humans to bow down to threats. Then you choose extinction, Zethrak said. No, Jake replied. We choose to teach you something. You wanted to see what a death world produces. Admiral, we're about to show you exactly what Earth created. Watch closely. Jake made a gesture. The transmission included a data packet. When Velcor computers processed it, alarms started screaming across the entire fleet.